In this video, we're going to take a look at how you can increase the accessibility of the designs that you create using Canva. If you would like to learn and play right along with me here today, you can use this bit.ly link to get your own copy of this slide deck. So it's bit.ly/ESU3 Canva Accessibility SP for spring, and then 26 for the year. This is case sensitive, so the E, the S, the U, the C of Canva, the A of accessibility, and the S of the spring abbreviation do need to be capitalized. So I'm going to go ahead and do that same thing and use that bit.ly, and it will give you a template copy, and you can just tap on the view template and then open in editor. So now I'm using a copy of this, so that's my own, so I can kind of play around in here and try some of the things. Before we really dive into some Canva specific things, just want to remind you why this is so important, because there are millions of Americans that are living with a disability. Many times we can see that disability and many times we cannot, and we don't know who's accessing our content. So we want to make sure that we are proactively designing it so that anyone can access regardless of the disability that they might have that might create a barrier to them accessing our content. The new guidelines that we are set to follow from the Department of Justice and the Americans with Disability Act specifically mention the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Many times you will see them abbreviated with the WCAG acronym, and you might hear them pronounced and referred to as WCAG. We are to follow the WCAG 2.1 version guidelines, and there are 3 levels of those guidelines. So level A, level AA, or level AAA, we are to follow the level AA, the intermediate guidelines, which means we need to follow those plus all of the beginner level ones as well. What does that mean? The WCAG guidelines are often organized and articulated using a POUR acronym, so POUR, and that means perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. So the perceivable part just means that nothing should be invisible to all of the user's senses. So we want to provide alternative text for any non-text content like images, animated GIFs, those kind of things. We're going to make sure that any videos we put online have captions. And then in any text-based information, we're going to make sure that we put a heading structure there so that someone can navigate that very easily if they cannot visually see the sections of a digital material. And then we also want to make sure that there's appropriate color contrast between the background and the text that's on top of it, or the shape that's on top of it. The O is operable, which means they must be able to interact with and control the interface regardless of input method. So if someone is not using a mouse or a trackpad, they're using keyboard only or voice only, they have to be able to navigate through that using all of those input methods. We're going to make sure that descriptive and unique titles are on each page and slide so they can navigate. We want to make sure and have an appropriate tab order so that if they are using the keyboard to tab through, that things are going in the appropriate order as they are tabbing through. Any flashes or any bit of content that you put in there that would have some animation, you want to make sure that no more than 3 content flashes per second are happening. And then any links that are put in there, make sure that the link text is descriptive. So instead of just saying click here, we want to make sure and describe what that link is going towards. The U part is understandable, so the content and the interface should be very clear, very predictable. So we want to make that content and that text readable, understandable, consistent with the navigation and identification that we're using, and make sure that the clear labels and instructions are applied. So for example, instead of saying just click on the red button, when they have to just rely on the visual sense of being able to decipher the color red, that would just be one sense, and so I want to make sure that it's not just by that in that case. And then the R part of POUR is robust. So regardless of device that the end user is using, we need to make sure that it can be utilized regardless if they're using just the device alone and any embedded accessibility tools within the device, or if they have add-on items like assistive technologies. We need to make sure that the things that we're putting out there could be utilized and interpreted regardless of the device that they are using. The nice part about when you are designing in Canva is that there are many accessibility features embedded right within it. So for example, when you're putting alt text on an image, they have some AI Canva magic that you can use to help have AI suggest the alt text for you, and then you can edit from there. They also have automatic translations that are available. They do have an embedded accessibility checker that's actually pretty good. It checks 3 different things, so it doesn't check everything, but it's a good first step to double check for some accessibility issues. And then there's also some automated captions with all native Canva videos as well. So let's get into this. I'm going to move to slide 6 here and get into the design accessibility checker. So that is available here. So if I go up here to File and go to Accessibility, you'll notice I have lots of different things that are available to me in here in this submenu. A couple things I do want to point out that I already have checked and I just leave checked all the time. That show view only captions on media. So any media I put in here, I just want it by default to say always show those captions on there. I also have it so that it automatically reduces the motion. So any animation I put in there, it just reduces that motion so it's less distracting. I still want to kind of use my own judgment on that, but this can help out with that. And then I also automatically have checked the navigate by layer order. So as someone might be tabbing through the design, I want to designate what order that goes through, and I can have them navigate by the layer orders that I put things in, which we'll get to more of that in here in a little bit. But here's that design checker that they have, the accessibility checker that's in there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And it's going to open up in a side panel here, and I can leave this open and I can go to any one of the 3 things that it will check. I can also look at my particular design, and once I turn on the design accessibility checker, if I see these blue dots, I know that I have design accessibility issues that Canva will check. So on this particular one, I'm going to focus on these 2 here. So I'm just going to tap the blue button here. I can always go over here and click on anything over here and see of the 3 things it checks for. I can see what kind of issues are there. I can see what page or what slide number those things are on there. But sometimes I feel like if I just click on it here, it takes me right to it. So when I click on this blue dot, it tells me that I have a contrast error here. So the yellow color of the background and the pink color of the text on the top, there's not enough contrast there. So I can either manually adjust it. So when I have the text selected here, I can go over here to my text color and I can pick a different color. Or Canva will make some suggestions for me. And if I'm good with one of these suggestions, I can just click on it here. It automatically resolves that design issue and changes it here for me. So just a 1 click and it will adjust it. Same thing with this one. I can adjust and pick whatever color. Maybe I want that darker gray color there. And you'll notice those 2 blue dots are there, and I have 2 less color contrast issues on the slide deck. Okay, with regard to color contrast, the standard that we are to follow is 4.5 to 1, so that's the contrast between the background color and the foreground color. This Adobe Color Checker is a really good tool to use. I have found that sometimes Canva will flag things that I have manually checked already, and it's telling me that there's not enough contrast, and so sometimes I will just double check it with Adobe, and if I've confirmed it with Adobe, the Color Contrast Checker, I feel pretty good about it. Okay, so moving to slide number 8, I'm going to keep the design accessibility checker open here on the side, and I can see I have a blue dot here, so I know that I have a design issue here. So when I click on it, over here, it will tell me I have a typography error. And what it checks for typography, it checks for text size, and it will flag anything that is less than a 12-point font. And so if it finds something, so it found this little text box here, I can push this button right here to automatically increase it to 12-point font. Now, I would say 12-point font is the bare minimum text size on anything, a document, a slide deck, whatever. But I would say, obviously a slide deck, if I'm presenting this and someone's in the back of the room, this is going to be very difficult to read. So I would say 12-point is probably not enough. So I can go over here, since I have the text box selected, I can just keep making my text larger in there, so I can make sure that it can be read even by someone who is sighted in there. Okay. All right. Other things in regard to text, again, that minimum font size is 12. I would say for a slide deck, you're probably talking minimum of 18 to 20, maybe even further into the low 20s there. Also, the preferred font type is sans serif. So, for example, this font right here is sans serif, as is this one. So you'll notice at the end of the letters, there's no little feet that are on there. These two A's over here are a serif font, so you can see the little feet at the bottom. For accessibility, the preferred font type is ones that do not have these little feet. If you have a text that you want to use that has the serif type of font, maybe use that as the header or the main title font so that it's a little bit larger, and then pick something that is sans serif for the body of the text. There is the recommendation. Okay, I'm gonna close that. The next thing, we want to make sure that the heading structure is in there. This is very important as someone who might be navigating based upon like using a keyboard only or something like that, so they can quickly and easily navigate. Now, I have labeled things on here, so H1, H2, H3 to help me as I'm doing this. If I was doing this, I probably wouldn't have the H1 in there, so this would just be my heading structure in there. The way that you go about doing this, when you add the heading structure in there, it just provides kind of some bones in the background of your document. You're not visually going to see anything different, but it will help for a screen reader to be able to navigate the document. And the way we're going to go about doing this is by editing the text semantics. So if I go back up here to that file menu and I go back to accessibility where we found that design checker before, I'm going to go in here to say where the option that says edit text semantics. Okay, and so this is not something that the design checker currently checks, so I need to go manually do this. So when I go in here, I can see, now it's going to be hard to see because my font is white, so it's going to be white on white over here, but when I click on this over here, you'll notice it puts the box around this, so I know that's the text box it's working with. Okay, and so I want to make this to be my heading 1. And so when I click on these 3 little dots here on the side, here's where I can see right now this is paragraph. I want to provide this. This is my heading number 1. This is my main heading. And so I'm going to have one text box or one piece of text that is heading 1. And so that's my main title there on that. So you notice I've changed that to H1. Now these are all together because it's multiple lines within one text box. So I'm going to push this little down caret so I can see all of these. And now you want to think about if you have some text in a text box, kind of think of it almost like an outline. And so if you've got sub points underneath there, that's where you want to use the heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, those kind of things. And you want to use them in order. So if this one's heading 2 and these are things that are kind of sub below that, I want those to be heading 3. And if these are below that, I want that to be heading 4. And so I'm going to go through. And so for each one of these, I'm going to click on the 3 dots at the end for that row or that line, and I'm going to adjust it. So this would be heading 2. And you'll notice as I'm making these adjustments, the look of the text box here is not changing at all. So we're changing the things kind of behind the curtain there in the structure of the document. Okay, so I'm going to make heading 3, I'm going to make those heading 4, and then this one kind of pops back out to heading 3. Okay, and then, you know, sometimes I put those in there to help me out, and then I can go through and remove them here. So you'll notice it's still keeping the structure over there even though I don't have it labeled here. The other thing you will want to do, and you would want to do that for a flyer, for a slide deck, anything like that. The other thing that you would want to do if you have a slide deck is you can change the page title for each slide, and you would want to have a unique page title on each slide. The way you do that, so if I have all my thumbnails down here at the bottom, when I click on the 3 dots here in the top, so I'm hovering my mouse over the slide thumbnail down here and I see these 3 dots, when I click on this, here is where I can edit the page title. And I would have one, so then I could go to this one here, click on the 3 dots, I could edit the page title. But another way you can do that I think is a little bit faster is design all your slides, get them all in there. And then when you're ready to add the page titles for all of them, here in this bottom corner, I can turn on grid view, and here I can see all of my slides. And from here, I can see I already have titles in these particular slides, but I'm missing one here. I can just click right here, and now I'm ready to add my titles there. And so I could just keep going from one to the next. And so I feel like this is a little bit more efficient way to add them. So just get all your slides in there. And so instead of having to go to each thumbnail, click on the 3 dots, change the title, go to the next one, click on the slide, hit the 3 dots, change it, you can just come here and change it all with just clicking on each one and starting to type. And then I can go back in here in this bottom corner and say close grid view, and now I'm back in the slide view. Okay. Next, we're going to take a look at some more issues that the design checker will catch. And so if I go up here to File, Accessibility, and go back to that Check Design Accessibility, it will open it up in the sidebar, and I will discover on this particular slide, I've got the blue dots again, so I know I have some design accessibility issues. So I'm going to click on the little blue dot by this image here and discover that I have some things on here that do not have alternative text. And so you'll notice all of these things where it says 1, 2, and 3 here, it's actually a circle and then a text box on top of it. Well, I want to make sure that that circle shape either has some alt text or I can mark it as decorative. So now the 3 things down here, all of these are just for design purposes. So I don't necessarily want a screen reader to read them. So I'm just going to click the little checkbox by all 3 of these white circles on this page. Okay, so I'm all on page 6 here. Or actually, yeah. And any of them that I have on any pages in my whole design, I can go through and mark what ones I want to be decorative. And all I'm doing is clicking on the little links or little checkbox here, and then I can just say mark as decorative, and it will take care of all of them. It will mark them all as decorative. So I would recommend it when you're designing in Canva, if you have images, if you have shapes, those kind of things, put them in there, and then when you're all done, run the design checker, and you can do just quick check, 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 check for the ones that are decorative, mark those, and then when I have those that aren't decorative that I do need to put alt text for, like this one, I can see it here on the side. I can say add alternative text, and I have this suggest for me, and I'm just going to let it run. When I look at what it gave me, maybe for my purposes, it doesn't need to be that detailed. So I can say a close-up view of a bee. I can get rid of maybe some of this because I don't need it to be that detailed. And so from a flower petal there. Okay. So even though it used AI to give me a suggestion, I can edit it from there. And then I just hit save, and it automatically saves the alternative text for that. If you don't want to use the side panel in that design checker, if you have an image, here, I'm going to close this. If I have an image and I click on the image, I get this little sub menu. I can hit these 3 more dots, and I can go down here and find alternative text, and I can add alternative text manually there as well. Or I can also mark it as decorative if it's something that I wouldn't necessarily need a screen reader to read. Okay, so same, you do have that suggestion. So if you click on the picture, or you can also right click on the picture, get to alternative text, or you can click on it, hit the 3 more dots and get to alternative text, or you can open that design checker and say suggest for me, and it will give you some. A couple other things about images: do avoid using animated images when possible. If you choose to use one, just make sure it's not too distracting and that you add alternative text for that animated GIF there as well. If you are recording video, you can always turn on captions and edit those captions. So if I record a video here, if I go to upload and then I say record yourself, I can record a talking head, and it will give me a little talking head here for myself. And then I can record whatever I want to record. So for example, if I hit the record button, let it count down, and then say captions are essential for accessibility, providing a text version of audio so that deaf or hard of hearing individuals can engage with multimedia. I say done. It gives me that. I say save and exit. And then say captions are essential. There we go. We don't need to listen to that. Okay, so once I have it on here, I can click on the video, the video element there. I can always go to edit. And then if you scroll down, a couple things I do want to point out. Any videos that you put in any of your digital materials, you do want to make sure that this play automatically is turned off. We want to leave the end user to determine when it plays and when it doesn't. So that is something you want to make sure and turn off. And then once I have it on here, I can go over here to my apps over here on the side. And if I scroll down just a little bit, here's captions. If I tap that, it's going to look at this slide and it's going to say, hey, do we recognize something that would have captions? It's recognizing this as a video. I can say generate captions. And it's going to go through and find those videos with the caption. So I'm going to go back to that slide deck. Here it is. And this right here, this little text, it looks like multiple text boxes kind of on top of each other. Those are my captions. So when I play the video and then say captions are, it will show them when I'm in present mode. It will show them that way. I can also, once I have my captions, I can click on the captions themselves, hit this captions button, and then I can edit them over here. That is one thing when you're putting captions in there, you do want to double check them because any auto-generated captions might not be 100% accurate, and we are, our standard is to make sure that they are accurate. So you want to make sure and go in and edit and double check the captions no matter what auto captioning tool that you are using. Okay, also with regard to videos, we want to make sure that all videos have those view only captions. So you can either find that in the file and then that accessibility menu, or if you're on any video, if you click on the video to get this little sub menu, you click on the three dots and you want to make sure that you have this, if it's a toggle on and off. So mine says hide view only captions because they're already on. So if I hit this hide, now when I play the video.
Hi, I'm Teacher Ellie from.
You'll notice it doesn't have captions there. When I go back in here and say show, now when
Canva.
I hit play, I can see those captions.
That adding close.
So you just want to double check that they are there. And then also again, that turning off autoplay. So if I click on this video, I click edit and I scroll down, I want to make sure that I turn off this play automatically, because I want the user who is looking at the slide deck to determine when the video plays or stops. So I want to put that in their control. Adding hyperlinks in Canva, super easy. So if I have this particular video, I'm just going to capture this link. So I'm just going to copy it. And let's say I want to put it over here with the words watch the Canva keynote. I'm just going to select that text. And once I have selected that text, I've got this little sub menu that appears and I can just tap the link button. I can paste the link that I want it to be and then done. So the text that's written there says watch the Canva keynote, but the link that it goes to is to the YouTube video where they can watch the Canva keynote. So that's how you can add a hyperlink. We do want those hyperlinks to be descriptive. So for example, check this out, read here, learn more. Those are not very descriptive. And someone can navigate between all the links, and if all they see is check this out, there's no context for what that is. So if I want them to check out this video about what's new in Canva education, if I have the link there already, I just click on it and I can tap on the pencil right there. And instead of check this out, I might say watch the what's new in Canva video. Okay, just to give some context. And this one, and then I can resize it, all those kind of things. This one I might say, you know, find more information about Canva education, or check out the design tool, the Canva design school tool, or something like that. So you can just provide a little bit more context so that someone knows when they click on that link, what are they going to see. Okay, if you're using tables in Canva, I do suggest that you avoid them when possible. A screen reader, and there's no way to designate tables in Canva. If you do need to use one, please make sure that you're not merging cells or having more than one header row, because a screen reader is going to read them from left to right, top to bottom, same way that we read. I do want to point out there is a table looking thing in this slide deck. I'm going to go back to slide number 4. This looks like a table, but it's actually organized. I'm going to open up the position and then the layers tab here so you can see these are all shapes with text boxes on top of them and organized in a table format, even though they are individual elements. So you can design in there to make it look like a table, even though it might not be functioning as a table behind the scenes. So that is one way that you can kind of work around that. We want things to be in tab order. So for example, this one, I want it, when it tabs, I want it to go to this heading first, and then I want it to go to perceivable, and then tell about the things that are perceivable, and then operable, and tell about the things that are operable. So I want to do that using the position, so the layers in there. So on this particular slide, if they were tabbing through it, I would want to start with the tab order, and then go to this bit of information, and then this bit of information, and then this one, and then it can give some details about the images that are in here. So if I go to the position tab, and I can see these layers here, it will read it from bottom layer to top. So I want to put things kind of in reverse order here. So the first thing, if they start tabbing, I want it to be this header here. I'm going to drag this and put that down to the bottom. And then sometimes it's hard to see what it is over here, but when I click on any one of these things, you'll notice it selects that design element on my slide. So I'm just going to drag these and put these in the reverse order. And so it's going to read the tab order, then this one, and then I want it to be this one, and then the arrows, and then the image over here on the side. You do have to think about the tab order of how you want things, but also think about visually. So you kind of have to think about both. So if I go back here to this slide number 4, and I go to position here, I go to layers, you'll notice I want these teal colored text boxes to be behind, or the shape to be behind the text box. So I put these in here. These are all marked as decorative, so a screen reader is going to skip them, but it will start with the title here and then go to perceivable, and then nothing should be invisible, and then the thing there, and then operable. So you kind of have to think about the tab order and the design, because if I drag this over here above it, then you're not going to be able to see it. So I kind of have to think about visually and the tab order that's happening in the background. Okay, and then last but not least, sharing and exporting. When you're sharing and export, do recommend that you use the public view link. So if I go up here to share, it shows up here for me, but if it doesn't for you, you can always hit this see all, and you want this public view link. And when you get this here, you can say create public view link, and then you can decide what information goes after the public view link. So it'll be canva.link/ and then whatever you put there. You do want to make sure that you're putting stuff in there that is easy to put in there. So if you want to have some text that's in there, if you have words that you're using, so like Canva accessibility, do want to use that capital case, so the capital C. So if I want this one to be Canva, just want to make sure that you're using, that's called camel case, so you have capital letters in there meshed with lowercase letters instead of just everything. All lowercase can be very difficult to discern what you're typing in there, so really want to make sure that we put in that camel case. So in that case, I would make this a capital C, and I would make the A of accessibility a capital A in there. And then that view link that once you are generated there, I would say save and copy, and then I can paste that link wherever I want it to go. So that's the preferred method. If you need to download it, so if I go to download, and particularly if I pick PDF, if I want to keep it as a digital copy, I'm going to pick PDF standard. I want to make sure that this match reading order to layers is checked, so that position layers that I put in there, that it puts that in the reading order. I also want to make sure that this flatten PDF option is not checked. When you flatten the PDF, it basically takes all of your design elements and flattens them into one picture, and so all of the work that you did to add all of those accessibility features in there go away. So when you are downloading a PDF, you do want to make sure that this flattened PDF is not checked, and then I can download it there, and I would have to then double check my PDF in Acrobat Pro. Okay, I want to thank you for spending some time here with me today. If you would like some more information, you can always go to Canva's accessibility site, canva.com/accessibility. When you go there, they have all kinds of things in there to support you. If you scroll down just a little bit, they have about how to design with accessibility in mind, more things about alt text and PDFs, all of the things that are on there. And they always keep this updated as they add more features. Thank you.